The voicemail started playing at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that changed everything. My father's voice, sharp and cutting through the speaker of my phone, delivered words that would echo in my mind for months. All you do is take. You've never given this family anything worth remembering. If you had any pride, you'd stop acting like we owe you something and just leave. I sat there in my empty kitchen, staring at the device in my hand like it had just delivered news of a death. In a way, it had. My name is Eric. I'm 29 years old, and until that moment, I thought I understood what family meant. Not the Hallmark version, the real kind, built on sacrifice and showing up when it matters. I'd spent years being the responsible son, the one who sent flowers on birthdays and picked up every piece of slack without being asked. But I never imagined I'd become the backbone of a family that saw me as completely disposable. Growing up as the middle child taught me early that love was conditional. Adam, my older brother, commanded every room he entered, varsity football captain with that effortless charm that drew crowds like a magnet. Mia, 5 years younger, had been the princess from her first breath, with wide eyes that could melt anyone's resolve. And me? I was the one who brought home B-plus grades and got lectures about not living up to my potential. I didn't mind, really. I kept my head down, earned a scholarship, and eventually started my own IT firm after 3 grueling years of surviving on ramen and 16-hour workdays. When investors ghosted me and clients disappeared, my family was nowhere to be found. But the moment money started flowing in, suddenly I was family again. It began with small requests. Dad needed help covering the remainder of Adam's car payments, just until his promotion came through. Then Mia's private college tuition exceeded her financial aid package. Mom discovered urgent repairs, the roof, then the heating system, then the kitchen remodel she'd dreamed about for decades. Before I knew it, I was quietly funding 3 households while still getting casual texts like, "Can you Venmo me for groceries?" At first, I felt grateful to help. I convinced myself I was building something meaningful, a legacy of generosity that would bind us together. But their casual acceptance, the way they treated my contributions like they were owed rather than gifts, slowly poisoned that gratitude. Last Thanksgiving shattered my illusions completely. I hosted at my new house, finally large enough to seat everyone comfortably. I hired caterers, cleaned obsessively, even set up a fire pit in the backyard for the perfect family gathering. Nobody offered to help with dishes. Adam raised his wine glass halfway through dinner, delivering a toast about how lucky we were to have each other and how family always comes through. He never once acknowledged that I'd paid for everything on the table. Mia spent the evening glued to her phone, barely acknowledging her new boyfriend I'd flown in to meet us. Dad lectured everyone about how tough his generation had it and how easy kids today have everything handed to them. I smiled through it all, swallowing my growing resentment. But something fundamental was already breaking inside me. 2 months later came that voicemail. Dad's voice cutting through the quiet of my evening like a blade. I played it again, certain I'd misheard. But there it was. All you do is take. I didn't yell. I didn't call back. I simply walked to my window and stared out at the city lights I used to love, feeling something inside me snap like an old hinge giving way under too much weight. That night, I packed a single bag and drove away. No dramatic confrontation, no tearful goodbye, just a clean, silent exit. I even instructed my assistant to pause all outgoing payments tied to family accounts. 3 days passed, then a week. Radio silence. It took them almost a full month to notice I was gone. Mia called first late on a Friday night, her voice shakier than I'd ever heard it. "Eric, hey, I just logged into the school portal and my tuition didn't go through this month. Did something happen with the account?" I could hear the panic she was desperately trying to smother, that fake casual tone people use when they're drowning but don't want to seem desperate. I responded with a single text. Thought I never gave this family anything. No follow-up, no explanation, just that. Within the hour, my phone exploded. 4 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Adam, and 1 from an unknown number. Dad's voicemail was almost comically predictable. "Eric, we need to talk. Whatever this little stunt is, it's not funny. Your sister's future is on the line." No apology, just demands. The same entitled tone that had haunted my entire life. That weekend, I flew to Denver, somewhere far enough to feel like I'd escaped their gravitational pull. I stayed in a small Airbnb overlooking the mountains and slept better than I had in years. For the first time in recent memory, I didn't check my email or open messages. I let the world spin without me. Back home, everything began falling apart exactly as I'd known it would. Mia received notice of pending withdrawal due to non-payment. Adam's car, still carrying my loan, was repossessed. My parents' mortgage payment bounced. The foundation they'd built on my silence cracked wide open, and suddenly everyone could see the rot underneath. They reached out to extended family, spinning their version of events, how I'd cut them off without warning and abandoned my responsibilities. But you can't rewrite history when too many people already know the truth. My cousin Emma, who'd watched this pattern for years, sent me a message that hit harder than I expected. I've always admired how patient you are, but I'm glad you finally stopped being their safety net. That's when I realized something profound. I hadn't wanted revenge. I'd wanted peace. But once you remove the thing people use to control you, once they understand they need you more than you ever needed them, that's when everything unravels. I spent 2 weeks in Denver, mostly doing nothing revolutionary. Morning walks to a coffee shop, journaling, wandering downtown to rediscover what uninterrupted silence felt like. No buzzing phone, no sudden obligations, no one asking for just one more favor. The calm felt foreign at first, like I had to unlearn the habit of constantly bracing for someone else's crisis. In my second week, I rented a car and drove to Boulder. I hiked alone, something I'd always planned but never managed because every vacation got interrupted by family emergencies. Standing at the edge of a cliff trail, wind cutting through my jacket, the entire valley spread below me, I laughed out loud. The sound echoed off the rocks, pure and clean. It took 3 weeks before Mom broke her silence with anything beyond passive-aggressive voicemails. Her email subject line read, "We need you to come home." No greeting, just a wall of text starting with, "I don't know what's gotten into you," and spiraling through, "Your father is furious," before ending with, "Family doesn't abandon family." I stared at that last line for a long time. Family doesn't abandon family, except they had. Every time they treated me like a debit card with a heartbeat, every birthday they forgot, every holiday where I sat in the background while Adam delivered speeches and Mia got showered with gifts. They just called it tradition instead of abandonment. Instead of replying, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Daniel, who'd helped me establish a trust fund years earlier. I asked him to transfer the remaining educational payments to a scholarship program for first-generation college students, kids who actually needed help, not ones who laughed behind my back while draining my accounts. I also had him investigate the deed for the lake house, the one my parents used every summer, paid off completely by me under the false promise that it would be a shared family investment. Turns out my name was still on the paperwork. That Sunday morning, I booked a flight home, not to reconcile, not to be guilted back into submission, but to collect what was mine. I didn't announce my arrival. I landed around noon, rented a car, and drove straight to the family house. The same house I'd helped renovate when Dad threatened to sell it unless someone covered the water damage repairs. As I pulled into the driveway, I spotted Adam's old pickup. He'd clearly moved back in after the repossession. I didn't knock, just used the spare key Mom had forgotten I possessed. The moment I stepped into the living room, I heard their voices floating from the kitchen. "He's being dramatic," Adam was saying. "He'll come crawling back once he gets over himself." Mia's voice followed, quieter. "I just don't get why he's doing this. I mean, it's not that much money to him, is it?" Dad grumbled something indistinct, then spoke loud and clear. "Eric's always been the weakest, hiding behind his computer, acting like money makes him special." I stood frozen in the hallway, invisible, as they continued dismantling me like I wasn't the reason their lights were still on. I didn't cry. I didn't storm in screaming. I didn't even feel anger. Just cold, absolute confirmation. They'd never seen me. Not really. I backed out quietly and drove to the lake house. Walking through the front door, I surveyed the open-plan kitchen and the wall of family photos that didn't include a single image of me. I started taking pictures for the real estate listing. By nightfall, Daniel had everything needed to initiate the sale. Monday morning, I sent one final message to the family group chat. You said I never gave this family anything, so I'm finally giving you what you've always acted like you wanted: distance. No more tuition, no more car payments, no more roof repairs. Sell your own memories. I'm out. I left the group chat and blocked them all. I thought that would end it, but I hadn't realized how deep their web of dependence had grown, or how fast everything would collapse once I cut every thread. Within a week, Mia faced expulsion. Adam was fired after missing shifts trying to sort out his finances. My parents received urgent calls from their bank about a mortgage they could no longer afford. And me, I was boarding a plane to Tokyo, first class, no guilt, no strings attached. I was somewhere over the Pacific when my phone finally caught up to the chaos I'd left behind. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails from unknown numbers, probably Mia's friends trying to intervene. Texts from Dad that started as threats but quickly devolved into desperate fragments. "We didn't mean it that way, and you're still our son." That last one made me laugh at 30,000 feet. I didn't listen to a single voicemail, just watched the notifications stack up like a silent slideshow of panic. It's funny how people who claim you've never given anything suddenly remember exactly how much you gave once it's gone. Tokyo was everything I needed: clean, quiet, anonymous. I wandered through temples and neon-lit arcades, letting my mind breathe in ways I didn't know were possible. No guilt crushing my shoulders, no surprise emergencies. For the first time in my adult life, I was simply me. Not someone's backup plan, not the family ATM. 2 weeks into the trip, I unblocked just one person: Emma. She'd sent a single message during the entire fallout: "When you're ready to talk, I'm here. Not to convince you, just to listen." When I met up with her after returning home, she slid her laptop across the cafe table. "I want to show you something." It was a Reddit thread Mia had posted under a throwaway account, asking for financial help to stay in school after an unexpected family emergency. She'd painted me as unstable, claimed I'd abandoned the family during a mental breakdown. Strangers were donating money. "She's raised almost 6,000 so far," Emma said, tight-lipped. "I figured you should know." Staring at the screen, I felt that familiar twist of sadness. There it was again, the same narrative, reshaped to cast her as the victim. Only this time, she was monetizing it, weaponizing strangers' sympathy. That night, I didn't rage post or call her out directly. I did something quieter. I uploaded screenshots of every payment I'd made toward her education: bank transfers, tuition receipts, even the textbook fund from her freshman year. Then I posted one anonymous comment: "Before you donate, maybe ask where the other $90,000 went. Some people forget who helped them when the help stops." Within 24 hours, her post was removed for suspicious activity, and the comments section had turned. A week later, I received a certified letter at my office from Dad, typed like a legal notice. It opened with, "We are formally requesting a meeting to discuss the breakdown of our family dynamic." But buried in the corporate language was their real agenda. They wanted a portion of the proceeds from the lake house sale, claiming emotional equity in the property. I passed the letter to Daniel without a word. He read it, smirked, and said, "Want me to remind them that emotional equity doesn't hold up in court?" We did one better. We sent them a copy of the original agreement Dad had signed when I first offered to buy the lake house, clearly stating, "I acknowledge that this home is purchased by and remains the property of Eric. I relinquish all future claims." He'd forgotten, or hoped I had. That letter shut them up temporarily. But the silence shattered when word spread that I was selling the main house too. While I was in Tokyo, Daniel and I had been working on a quiet side project. Years ago, I'd loaned my parents a large sum when they couldn't keep up with their mortgage. They'd never paid me back. Daniel tracked every deposit, compiled every wire transfer, and we filed a lien on the house. They now owed me over $80,000, which meant I could legally force a sale. The day the house went up for auction, I parked across the street that morning. The air carried that sharp autumn chill that always hung over our neighborhood. I sat watching this place that had absorbed so much history, joy, bitterness, countless unspoken resentments, now marked with a small white sign: "Notice of foreclosure, auction today." Inside, I walked through slowly, as if trying to absorb it all one final time. The dent in the hardwood from when Adam threw a baseball indoors, the faded carpet stain where Mia spilled nail polish and blamed me, the wall where my parents used to pin report cards and drawings, until they quietly stopped adding mine. It was strange how little of myself I saw there, like I'd been a ghost in my own family story. By noon, cars began arriving, a few serious bidders, curious neighbors, and finally my family, packed into Dad's old Chevy like some twisted road trip. Dad spotted me instantly. "Eric," he called, voice bristling with authority. "We need to talk. Now." He strode up with Adam shadowing behind. "You're really doing this? You're going to humiliate your own family over some perceived slight?" I looked him in the eye for the first time in years. It's not a slight, it's a pattern, and it ends today. "You ungrateful little," he started. "Don't," I said calmly, raising my hand. "Just don't." Mia joined them, her voice cracking. "I'm going to lose my scholarship because of this. Why are you doing this to us?" I turned to her. "I paid for your first 3 years. Every tuition bill, every textbook. You never said thank you. Not once. Instead, you posted online that I was unstable and lied to strangers for money." Her face crumpled. Mom finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "We're family, Eric. Families don't do this to each other." "No," I replied. "Families don't take like this. You took everything, my time, my money, my trust, and when I stopped giving, you called me selfish." The auctioneer's voice cut through the tension. "We'll begin in 5 minutes." Dad looked around, suddenly less certain. "You can't do this." "You're right," I said. "So I'm taking it back." They stood rooted to the driveway, helpless for the first time in years. I walked away. The house sold within the hour to a retired couple looking for a place near their grandchildren. They paid in full. I signed the paperwork, handed Daniel the keys, and never looked back. 3 weeks later, the moving truck arrived. My parents tried to fight it, but the court order was clear. 30 days from sale date, no exceptions. They didn't even pack everything properly, just grabbed what they could and left the rest in scattered piles. One of the movers found an old journal of mine tucked in a box labeled junk. It was from high school, every page filled with goals. Get into college, start a business, buy a house, take care of my family. Funny how none of those dreams ended the way I'd imagined. When it was over, Emma hugged me for a long time. "You did the right thing," she whispered, "even if it doesn't feel like it yet." She was right. It didn't feel good in any traditional sense. No soaring victory, no crowd cheering justice. Just silence. A sharp, echoing silence that slowly gave way to peace. I moved shortly after, buying a loft in a different city. Smaller, simpler, but entirely mine. No hidden bills, no guilt, no one treating my generosity like weakness. The calls eventually stopped. The emails dried up. Over time, even the bitterness faded. I didn't hate them. I just disconnected, like finally cutting the last thread of a frayed rope that had been dragging me underwater for years. One evening, sitting on my balcony with tea, watching lights flicker in the building across the street, I thought about that last Thanksgiving, about Adam's toast, about their commercial perfect smiles, completely unaware that the glue holding them together was already cracking. That's when I realized they were never really a family. They were a system, one that only worked as long as I stayed silent, stayed useful, stayed small. Now they had to learn how to stand without me. A few months later, I received an email from Mia. I don't expect a response. I just wanted to say I get it now, and I'm sorry. I read it twice, then archived it. Not out of spite, but because I no longer needed closure from them. I already had it from myself. And for the first time in my life, that was enough.